we got the Q&A chat, so you can post some questions and I'll answer them. I got a list of questions we're going to go through. I'm going to start out a little bit by telling you a little bit about who I am, where I'm from, how I wound up doing what I do, and we're going to go from there. That'll at least fill some time to see if anyone wants to join us. So, like I said, my name's Keith. My company's Raymond James. I live in Tucson, Arizona. It's sunny. I feel like it's in the 70s today. Oh, nope, it's 68. Kind of a beautiful place to live. All right. I've been with Raymond James since November of 2018. So a little over a year and a half now. It's been a pretty good company. I've enjoyed it. I worked at Wells Fargo before that and City Mortgage before that. So I have sort of been all over. But today we're going to have a conversation really about personal finance and about investing in the middle of what's one of the most volatile times we've seen definitely in a while and probably in our lifetime. So I'd love to have your questions as they come. Anyone who has a question can type it in. You also can message me. I think I'm tagged in this video, so if you wanted to post a question and have it not be public, you're more than welcome to. So I'm sure all of you nurses out there are aware of our coronavirus pandemic, or the globe's coronavirus pandemic. You guys are on the front lines of dealing with it. I hope that you guys are staying safe. I'm sure there's lots of questions that are coming through to the Gypsy nurse and to other nurses around that are more specific to that. But I just wanted to say I hope you guys are staying safe. I'm sure you've seen one of the side effects of that, as far as an economy goes, is the large drop in our stock market and the rapid drop that the speed at which it's dropped is almost unprecedented. So we're going to talk through a little bit of that. We're going to talk through what that means for your finances, what that means for your retirement. We're going to talk through how you should handle that, how you should be invested. I can't give any specific investment advice, but we can talk through some pretty general things, questions that I'm getting asked all the time. So I'm sure you could imagine my phone's been ringing off the hook this week. I have had been on the phone with all my clients, a lot of friends, a lot of people who were thinking about becoming clients, and a lot of them open with the question. They asked me from a finance perspective if I think the world is over, if this is a crisis we're not coming back from, at least. And when they say that, I think they all are meaning in the, at least anytime soon. And while many of you nurses know a lot more about how this virus is impacting humans and the strain on our medical system, what I can say is that the global economy has been through many situations that seemed very bleak, from world wars to Great Depressions. And while this is unprecedented in that it's not something we've ever experienced before in our lifetime, it is something that the world has recovered from before. So I think I always start with saying, we're in uncharted territory, but I think we're coming back, and especially from a finance perspective. And so we have to really think about our finances, especially when we're thinking about investing in retirement, or even just making your dreams come true, like thinking about it in much longer time frames, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, some of you 70-year timelines. If you are, in your 20s and still just starting down this path, or at least just starting down this travel path, you can reasonably expect to be living for another 70 years. So we have a lot of time in front of us that we want to think about. Another question that I get pretty regularly, at least when it gets really turbulent in the market, is, should I hide all my assets? Should I move my investments to cash? Sometimes I'll get the question, should I take the cash out of the bank and put it in my closet? A lot of times it'll come along with another question, should I buy some gold? So I think the answer to all of those questions is really no. I think one of the things we want to make sure that we don't do in finance is panic. We want to make sure that we have set up our lives in a way so that we can handle ups and downs. That way we don't have to move in a panic in a situation like this. So when the world shifts beneath our feet and it moves fast, we can pause and look around and make smart strategic decisions. And moving assets from your bank account into cash in your closet is usually not a good scenario. I always like to tell the story whenever people ask me this question. I suppose I have to be pretty careful about how I tell the story, because it was a client at a different institution who had told me that they had kept most of their assets in cash in a floor safe. And they didn't trust the banking system at the time. And then they had a major water spill with a bunch of chemicals inside the room that they had their floor safe, and ruined tens of thousands of American dollars. So even moving money out doesn't make it risk-free, is the point of that story. Another question that I've been getting this week is, how am I impacted by the government relieving interest on the student loans? What should I do with my student loans? I want to pay them off quickly, but I also want to make sure I take all the benefits. What are my options when it comes to student loans? And that's a harder question to answer generally, because there are a whole host of things that come into play. Whether or not you work for a nonprofit, if you're hoping to get any forgiveness, if you have already refinanced your loans and they're private already, if your loans are really long-term or short-term, what the interest rate on your loans are, if you can handle the payment, how much cash do you have to be able to pay those loans in the event that you get reassigned. And this is another thing another question that comes up. So my answer to that question is pretty similar, and it really is, let's sit down and have a conversation. If you are curious about your student loans, shoot me a message, or find my email or phone number scrolling across the bottom. You can shoot me an email, you can give me a phone call, or you can find my Facebook page. And really what we're going to do is have a conversation about where student loans are exactly. And what I'll give you in return for that is a sheet that just explains where your student loans are, what the benefits to you of making any changes. And not always is it best to make changes. Sometimes it's best to just keep things as they are. And in the middle of a conversation like that, we get to find out what's best for you. Well, I guess I should say, we get to present the information and help you make a decision what's best for you. Because sometimes it's not just the numbers, there are other things at play that only you really have the knowledge to be able to make that decision. So our goal is to put you in front of that information and help you make that decision. All right. Let's take a look here. So one of the other questions that I've been getting a lot is now a good time to invest? Should I pause my 401k contributions? Should I keep saving for my future? Should I just put all of my money in a bank account? And you'll hear this question come up a lot from me as we have these conversations. The answer is pretty similar. It's, let's take a look at your financial plan. I like to think about it in steps. I like to think that first we need to understand your whole picture. I'm going to show you a little slide here in the bottom right corner. We're going to go over here to our little process. Yeah. So we call this our client experience process. And this is how we have a conversation. We're going to start with, just getting to know each other. Basically, we're trying to decide if we have a fit, if we can communicate well, if you like who I am as a financial advisor, if you understand, how I view the world and what my philosophy for how I invest. After that, we're going to move on to a second meeting where we're going to call this our clarity meeting. Our goal is to figure out if you even need a financial advisor. We're going to look at your goals, your risk, we're going to look for gaps in the plan that you have. And really, this is a exploration of, what's your exact financial picture. From there, we're going to go to our strategy meeting where we're going to have a financial, basically in that meeting, that's where we're going to say, hey, this is what I think you should do with your investments, with your savings, with your debt. And then the last meeting is just our constant communication. I think the reason why I show that to you is because when someone asks me a specific question like, should I invest now? The answer really comes back to what's your whole plan? How much time do you have? Do you have enough money to get yourself through 6 or 12 months of something major happening in your family? What are your risks that you're exposed to if the hospitals aren't closing? So that's not really something that you have to worry about. But what if there were a structural change in how your hospital was organized and your job shifted in a way that made you not want to be there anymore? Did you have 6 months of savings to give you the flexibility to be able to go change something about your life in a way that brings you fulfillment? So we usually start with an emergency fund, and then we'll start from there and identify some long-term goals. It's easy to talk about retirement because, we're accustomed to hearing about it. But, really, what are your long-term goals? Do you want to live in a van when you're 35? Do you want to have a big family and be able to pay for college? Whatever your financial goals are, that's going to decide, is now a good time to invest. Stock market's terrifying right now. It's gone up and down. It's gone up and down a lot this week. But I think what we know about the stock market is that it goes up and down, but historically, over a long time, it has a positive bend, meaning it goes up. So that's my long and meandering answer to that question. We'll come back to this chart that you see behind me in a little bit. I have noticed in this video that I have touched my face twice. It's pretty hard not to touch your face. I've never worked in the medical field before, so I'd never paid attention to how often I touch my face until I realized how much it spreads germs. Thankfully, no one's home, and I will wash my hands soon. That being said, let's go ahead and move on just a little bit. Another question that I have been getting all week is, how do you handle IRAs during this time? I think that was another question that was posted to one of the social media feeds as well. How do we handle this time with our IRAs? What are prudent things to do? And I think that's going to go back to a very similar answer, where you want to understand how much time you have and how much you can handle sticking with it as the market goes up and down. If you're young, I don't even want to put an age on it, because if you have the time, you have the assets saved elsewhere, and you have the time to stick out the volatility. History has shown, it's not a guarantee, but historically, the money that you have invested over the long term will be higher than it is now. And, when I say that, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And so if that's the timeline of your IRA, which if you're in the first half of your career, it is, and it could potentially be a timeline that long in the second half of your career too. It could, if you are, I have many clients who are in their 60s and going to retire on some pension money first, and don't planning on touching their IRAs until they're in their required minimum distribution phase. And so even in that scenario, you can potentially have 10 years before you needed to touch your IRA. So I would say, before making any changes to your IRA or to any investment vehicle that you have, you really want to have a solid understanding of where you're going, why you're saving, how much you're saving, if you're saving enough to get you where you need to go. And these are all questions that you probably could figure out all on your own. And if you have done that and have the time to, and have put together your whole financial plan, then maybe you start showing with, you sit down with someone and show them your financial plan. But I'm willing to bet, from my experience, most of my clients have benefited from taking that focused time to sit down and have a conversation about where they're going, knowing how much they're contributing to their 401k, knowing how much they're saving for their future, knowing where they want to go and why. And so you're hearing a reoccurring theme here, where have a financial plan, know where you're going, and that really is going to be a light on the path so that you know what to do with your IRA. I think it's worth touching on one of the things I've seen a lot of in the past couple weeks. I'm sure you guys have seen it too. All the crisis pay job postings that have shown up. I've seen some numbers that are maybe even double of the numbers that I saw before crisis pay, and I don't pay close attention to what the job postings are. So maybe twice as wrong. I don't know the exact number. I just know that I've seen some pretty decent numbers for crisis pay travel nurses. One of the things that's worth considering as you're trying to think about if that's for you, I mean, aside from where you're going, who you're working for, what kind of job you have, if it's a city you want to be in, if it's if you're exposing yourself to something that you don't want to be exposed to. Aside from all of those questions, just the question of, are you going to be financially okay if you get 3 weeks into a crisis pay job and everyone in the city that you were at gets better and they don't need crisis pay employees anymore? Because it would be pretty easy for hospital administration to cut those expensive positions first. So I think an easy way to do that is to, if you take a crisis pay position, what a couple of my clients have done is they've taken a crisis pay position and then they have saved all of the extra money that they made from crisis pay over their regular, what would have been their regular weekly amount. And they put it into a savings account and didn't spend any of it until they got to the end and knew they were going home, knew how they were going to get home, and then they had worked hard for that extra money. I actually have quite a few nurses who do most of their whole year like that. It works out pretty well. It's a good way to take cash flow that goes up and down and makes it pretty even. We put all the money into one account and then just take a specific monthly amount out of it. And then at the end of the year, you can take a look and see, I had a client who made a little over 130 working. It wasn't the full year, and only spent 60 of it that way and had a pretty decent chunk at the end. So just a suggestion when you're taking a look at crisis pay, just make sure you're making good strategic decisions with it. All right. So another question that I get a lot of is, should I be saving first or should I be paying off debt? And so there's a twofold answer to that question. And if you Google that question and wander around the internet, you'll see very extreme differences in the answers, and they can get pretty entertaining. What I would say, generally speaking, is you need to have an emergency fund. That's priceless. You need to be able to get yourself out of a situation or home or from somewhere to another in an emergency. So there should be a pile of money somewhere that isn't touched. The other thing to consider when you're thinking about saving versus paying off debt is, how important is it? How far from retirement are you? What the return on investment is, what your tax bracket is, because when you save for your retirement in 401k, it can shield it from taxes. And then also, what kind of debt do you have? Are we like almost 30% in credit card debt? Should we be talking about some kind of debt snowball to pay it off? So those are nuanced questions. I would say what I wind up telling clients that ask me that question is, a better way to think about it is to figure out how much of your total monthly income can you put towards building wealth for your future. And then sit down with someone like myself and have a conversation about how much of that should go towards credit cards, how much of that should go towards loans, how much of that should pay off your car, how much of that should pay off your student loans, how much should go in your 401k, and how much could you save for your future outside of that. And have a good plan. That way you're not waiting just till you pay off your credit card debt. You have $3,000 a month that you're building wealth with, and then one of those goes away. It moves that $100 payment to the next part of the process. It's pretty fun. People feel very satisfied when they see those steps because they now have a future that they know they're working towards. So I think that's probably my answer, but I'm going to go back to say, in spite of all of that gray, having an emergency fund is one of the most important things. So probably step one, emergency fund. Step two, let's put it all together and have a conversation and see, where you want to go in your future. All right, so another question that I've been getting a lot of this week is, and I sort of answered it before, is it, I just lost 30 or 40%. Okay, no one lost 40%, or I should say none of the people that I have had conversations with lost 40%. I've lost 28, 29% in my 401k. What should I do? Should I still be investing? And then, so we're gonna head on over to this chart, the one that you see in the bottom corner. Just take a look at it down there. This chart the return, the average annual return of the S&P 500 index for the period shown below. It was 9.9%. Now, this period isn't super relevant anymore because we've come off of this high. But what I think is more important is to see that even down here in the bottom, 2009, the very beginning of 2009, I think this was March of 2009, you can see that even if you had put money in at the, on the way down before we hit the very bottom, you can still see that your investment returns have been worth your time and definitely returned more than sticking it in a bank savings account. It's a bumpy ride. It's pretty scary, especially if you see, your $200,000 or $300,000 net worth, or maybe $300,000 to $500,000 net worth, see $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of that disappear over time or almost immediately. But I want to come back to what has happened in the stock market over very long periods of time. The S&P 500, if you had invested all your money at the very top of 2007 before the financial crisis, so I'm not even going all the way back to really long terms. You'll hear some long-term numbers, but even if you had invested, just 13 years ago at the very top of the market before a huge downturn, your return, even after today's exact market value, would have been 5.6%. So even if you had invested at the top, rode the market all the way down, and then still held on to it, and then watched it fall again, you still would have had a return that was worth your time. But then if you had invested somewhere here towards the bottom, like on your way down, your annual return right now would have been around 13%, including today's decline. I think what I'm trying to illustrate, and it's a pretty hard one to illustrate because there's so many numbers involved, is investing is a bumpy ride, but hanging on for the long term is still worth your ride. I'll tell you a story. I had a client one time at a different institution who didn't know who to have a conversation with about his 401k. And he was getting near retirement, and that's a scarier time, especially if you haven't made any adjustments to your 401k to bring your risk down. And right before 2008, he lost about 50% of his account value because he was actually invested a little riskier than even the regular market. And right around the bottom, he pulled it all out and he put it in cash. And here we are 13 years later, he had about $500,000, and he missed the entire growth back up. So you could imagine, what this $10,000 to $28,000 number would be if this was a $500,000 savings or retirement savings. We're gonna live a really long time, hopefully, in case something bad happens, or tragic is probably a better word. But we are living longer than we have at any point in history, and you run the real risk of getting to the end of your life without having any of your savings left if we try and get there without the return of the stock market. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate with this chart. So let's head on back, and I'm gonna done with the chart. Let me go back to a couple other questions here. All right. I think, let's see, answer that. I think the one thing that I want to come back to, and you'll hear me say it over and over again, it's really what I preach on. I think the markets are going to recover over a long period of time. I think we are going to have a hard time knowing when they're going to be at the bottom, when the markets are going to feel better. I'm not someone who stands here and says, make any future predictions, because I think it's pretty hard and it's pretty complicated. What I will say is, through an investment process, a savings process, put a plan together. That's really where you tie it all together, from your credit card debt, from your how are you handling your insurance? How are you handling your student loans? How are you handling your savings? You really want to be able to have a plan completely together, because that's what'll give you the confidence to just follow through. I think one last question that I get a lot, especially from my travel nurse friends, is, does it make more sense for me to do a 401k or an IRA? And I know I keep giving you it depends answers, but it sort of depends. And it gets complicated because of 401k vesting periods and how, what kind of investment options you have, and then also how much of a hassle it is to roll it from one place to another. And then, you could pay a fee each time you wind up doing that. It's not usually a huge fee, but if you wind up doing that frequently, it can get out of hand. The only thing I will say is, your IRAs, are maxing out $6,000 a year. You won't be able to retire at the lifestyle that you're currently living. I'm making an assumption that you're making a decent amount of money, especially as a travel nurse, by saving $6,000 a year. So one benefit the 401k has that the IRA doesn't is you can put a much larger amount in there, up to $19,000 a year. That'll get you a lot closer, but it's still it depends kind of a scenario. So have a conversation with a financial professional. Take a look at your specific benefits package. Read the fine print of your 401k matches, what kind of investment options there are, what the fees of both your 401k and your IRA options are. Know what you're paying for. Know if you're getting investment advice. Know if you're just paying for investment management. What kind of funds? Are they actively managed funds? Really dig in so that you can understand the difference between having an IRA and having a 401k, and then tie it all back to your plan. So I think I showed you guys earlier how we have that 4-step process. That's our financial planning process. That's what we do at Raymond James. I do that remotely. I do that in person. What we normally put together a plan for people that are our clients. It's a fee for service package that we have. What I have the ability to do is, if you are interested in putting together a financial plan, we can put together the financial planning document for you for free, for no cost, without having to become a client. Obviously, our hope is going to be that you become our client. I think that what we do is incredibly valuable, but at the end of the day, it's probably worth your time to at least go through the questions. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll find something you want to do on your own. If any of you are interested in that, you can message me through my Facebook. You can book an appointment on my Facebook. You can shoot me an email. You see my email scrolling across the bottom down there. You can find my phone number and give me a call there. But I'd love to help you guys. I have a few travel nurses that I work with right now, and we do a lot of remote work, so it's pretty easy. You don't have to be face to face. We do this kind of video work. all over the country. Right? Caveat there is I have to be registered in whatever state you reside in, but I'm registered in a few states, and depending upon the situation, sometimes it's easy to register in other states as well. Probably very similar to how you guys move from state to state. So I think those are all the specific questions that I have. I haven't seen any like new ones pop up. Let me just check here real quick just to make sure. It's always fun seeing your face in two different places. All right. Well, guys, I think that's all I have for you. And anyone who I think I'll be coming back soon. So if anyone has any other questions, I'd love to get them via email. If you want to shoot them to me, I'll prepare as much as I can for the next conversation and see what we can do.